This is Pompeii, but we're actually in Britain a millennium earlier, and instead of a volcano, we have a catastrophic fire and a fortunate river. 3,000 years ago in the late Bronze Age, people lived here in stilt houses built directly over the river. One day, a fire broke out, the buildings collapsed into the water, and the oxygen-free silt of the riverbed sealed everything in place and time. This is Must Farm, nicknamed Britain's Pompeii due to the level of preservation. I'm Louise, I'm an archaeologist, and in this video we're going to explore this extraordinary site and what it tells us about life in Bronze Age Britain. Must Farm is located in Cambridgeshire, England, and dated to around 950 BC. The site is located in the Flag Fen Basin, on the bed of a now defunct river, around 2 kilometres south of the famous Flag Fen site. Must Farm has provided us with a lot of extraordinary objects, items that were left behind in this moment of disaster. One of the most famous is a bowl of half-eaten porridge, with the wooden spoon still left in. The porridge was made of wheat and animal fat, likely sheep, goat or red deer. Food like this rarely survives in the archaeological record, and provides us with an incredibly intimate glimpse into Bronze Age life. The site also produced some of the finest Bronze Age textiles ever discovered in Britain. There's a tiny charred ball of flax thread. Its strands less than 0.5 millimetre thick, and it survived for nearly 3,000 years and looks recognisable today. Beads were found across the settlement, made from glass, amber, shale and siltstone. Remarkably, some of Must Farm's beads were made in Iran, 4,500 kilometres away. This shows that Bronze Age Britain was not isolated. It was part of vast connected trade networks. Even the less glamorous discoveries tell powerful stories. Studies of human and dog coprolites, which is fossilised faeces, revealed parasitic infections, including fish tapeworms and giant kidney worms. This represents the earliest evidence of these parasites infecting humans in Britain, reminding us that Bronze Age life came with some real health challenges. Another important aspect is the evidence of craft and recycling. Metalwork in Britain is rarely found in domestic contexts, but at Must Farm, archaeologists uncovered large, complete assemblages of tools used inside the homes, revealing some sort of standard Bronze Age household toolkit, including axes, sickles and razors. Textile production was also widespread, with loom weights, spindle wheels, bobbins of thread and bundles of fibre being present in most of the homes. Structure 4 was a square building near the palisade, and it may have served as some sort of entrance or storage area. Inside here, a wooden bucket was found full of broken bronze tools and weapons, which have been obviously collected, ready to be melted down and recycled. Metal was such an important research of the Bronze Age, so much so it's how we define the age. And this shows a knowledge of recycling, the use of how just valuable this resource is. Today, this landscape looks very different, but in the Bronze Age, wetlands like this were not marginal or empty places. They were part of highly connected landscapes. Rivers acted as transport routes, trade networks, and resources of food and materials. If you wanted to move people, goods, or even ideas, the waterways were often the easiest and quickest ways to do so. The settlement at Must Farm consisted of 5 stilted houses, raised above the river on wooden posts. Building over water provided several advantages: protection from flooding, fewer predators and pests, easy access to transport routes, and an environment rich in resources like fish, birds, reeds and timber. An interesting aspect of this settlement is just how short-lived it was. This isn't a village occupied for generations. It was basically brand new, with the fire occurring just 9 months to a year after construction started. Much of the timber was unseasoned, meaning it had been cut down and used almost immediately. There was also a lack of insects associated with long-term inhabitation, and only a small amount of rubbish had accumulated. The houses had been constructed very close together, with the roofs either almost touching or touching. This meant if a fire started in one building, it would have spread very quickly. Another possible cause of the fire is violence. Weapons were found at the site, including swords and spears, and the settlement was built in a defensible location, with a palisade of sharpened stakes around it. No human remains were discovered at Must Farm, suggesting the inhabitants escaped or were driven out before the buildings collapsed. Despite the level of preservation, the cause of the fire remains elusive, and we may never know. What makes Must Farm truly exceptional is the level of preservation, hence why the nickname Britain's Pompeii has stuck, despite it having no real parallels other than a catastrophe and preservation. When the buildings collapsed into the river, they sank into thick, waterlogged silt. This created anaerobic conditions, meaning there was no oxygen for bacteria to break the materials down. Normally, Bronze Age sites give us little more than post holes, some pottery fragments, and the occasional metal object. However, here we have textiles, wood, and food all preserved. This is a scale of preservation rarely seen anywhere in British prehistory. Due to the water being slow moving and the riverbed thick with vegetation, when objects fell down, they fell almost exactly where they were used in the objects. This has allowed archaeologists to sort of map the activity areas of the houses, and they show clear evidence of zoning. Structure 1 is the best example of this. Metal objects appear to have been stored on the eastern side of the house. Textile working seems to have taken place by the door, which is where natural light would have been brightest. Spinning seems to have taken place in the other structures, and they all supplied their yarn to structure 1. Remains of young lambs with charred droppings suggest that animals were sometimes kept inside the houses. In the northwest, there's complete pots and wooden containers suggesting some sort of kitchen or cooking area. There's also some large empty spaces, which is where we think sleeping would have taken place, but the bedding's obviously not survived. Inside the homes were not chaotic spaces, they were organised, intentional homes, laid out in a way that feels surprisingly familiar. Must Farm doesn't show us kings, monuments, or elite burials. It shows us everyday life. Cooking, working, sleeping, frozen in a single moment. And that's what makes it extraordinary. Sites like this reshape how we understand prehistoric life, reminding us of the ordinary people and their daily routines, which I think are just as important and spectacular and monumental as everything else. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe for more archaeology content, and you can also find all my links elsewhere down below. Have a great rest of your day.